Yeah, just Sveno Mick here, just watching a bit of the V8 today, so just been at breakfast with Carl's and Janine and Corinne at the Orangey. A beautiful breakfast. It's a couple of my clients and friends. I was going to say, getting some mixed messages with the COVID. And don't get me wrong, I've got no problem with getting a injection, a COVID-19 injection, down the track. I've got to see the proof that it's actually an advantage to us in Australia. Now, for me, and this is only for me, I don't care about travelling overseas, not interested. Not worried about travelling overseas. At this point in time, my holiday will only be in Queensland. Yeah, I want to get back down into southern New South Wales and to Bathurst to watch a car race in the next few years. So no big hurry for any of that. But the COVID-19, we got all the different strains. There was the China strain, there's the India strain, but now they've called Delta strain because they don't want to say Indian. Well, I'm a firm believer if it's come from Australia, you'd call it the Australian strain. If it comes from India, you'd call it the India strain. If it comes from the US, you'd call it the US strain. If it comes from Russia, you'd call it the Russian strain. If it comes from England, there was an England strain, I'm sure there was, so I don't see the big drama about that. But anyhow, that's clearly, they said, oh, you can't be singling out any particular countries. But anyhow, apart from that, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to say is, I'm just a little bit hesitant to get an injection because in Australia, as I understand, 2021, no one has died to COVID this year in Australia. Now, I could be corrected and correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot of immunisation within the older population in nursing homes. So, if that's what you've got to do, that's what you've got to do. There's a lot of question marks over the clotting. Now, when I said no one's died in Australia this year, that's as I understand. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. But I think about 8 people have died to clotting from the one of the injections, the one that's more common here. Now, so that's a high percentage in my book, and I'd be the unlucky one that would probably roll me. And the last thing I want to be doing is getting rolled. I don't have a problem with wearing face masks or anything like that. Washing my hands, signed in, I couldn't care less about any of that. In Queensland, the state government has done a good job of keeping it in an outbreak, and when outbreaks happen, they're on it through obviously the information from the chief medical officer and whoever, I don't know. But the thing that worries me is, and look, I could be completely wrong, coming from a person that doesn't know anything about, I know nothing about it, but I do know this. It's rolled 6 to 8 people this year, the clotting from the needle. I don't believe everything people always say in the medical fraternity for the simple reason, many years ago it was all good for women to get take the pill which was for morning sickness, and what they end up getting out of that was thalidomide. And I knew a thalidomide girl. She had arms about that long and 2 fingers, and she's still around. So that was no good. And there was a fair few thalidomide babies getting around, and I remember them because they were my age. They're roughly in their mid-50s to late 50s now, as this girl was. So that's got a question mark over that because it's come to, and I know there's a lot of money been getting thrown at it, but there's been a lot of money getting thrown at cancer for a long time, and they still haven't got a lot of cures for a lot of that. So yeah, for me, it's just a little bit, I'm just a bit reluctant at the moment because I'm travelling along good myself, and I don't mix in the community a lot. I pretty well stay to myself. And if it's at all a question mark with people that are slightly unhealthy, and I work for a lot of older people that aren't, there's people who've had cancer and they've had this and they've had that, and I've got friends that they've had the needle and they've ended up really sick for days, and sore and bone achy, which I've had the flu injection, and every time I get the flu injection I end up sicker than when I don't get it. And we're nearly to the end of winter now, and I haven't had the flu injection this year, and I haven't had the flu injection for the last 3 years because I stopped getting it when I was on council. Most of the time I'd get sick. So I haven't been properly sick with the flu this year. I think I've had 1 or 2 days where I just felt a bit ordinary, a bit shithouse. And so look, that's only just how I see it. I could be completely wrong. I might have it completely wrong. But at the moment, I'm just a bit hesitant, and I'm 59 at Christmas, so yeah. And our government's keeping a pretty good track on it now. And also they say, it's all the finances. Well, look, I don't know. Maybe this is just the new norm. Australia's still exporting a massive amount of coal and iron ore and everything to China and wherever else. We're still importing and buying a lot of stuff from China and the US and everything, and the shortages on everything, the shortages on cars from Japan, the shortages on mowers, the shortages on this and shortages on that. That's another typical thing when we don't build stuff in our own country. So, look, I don't know, but the amount of, as I understand it, the amount of people who travel overseas holidaying and whatever else out of Australia each year, I think is roughly around 2 million people, and about 2 million people travel to Australia holidaying. So that equals that self out everywhere. Basically, you can't get much here because everything's sold out. Even second-hand car prices have gone through the roof. When they've got lockdowns here, there and everywhere, but fuel's as dear as poison at the moment. So look, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't like people having a hard time and everything, but look, I'm just putting it out there. I'd like other people to tell me what they think, but like I said, at this point in time for me, I'll just stick to myself. I've had different people family members have got the injection. Some of it hasn't worried, some of it has. Friends, some of it's worried, some of it hasn't. You see what you see on the news. They're trying to put having the injection in a good light all the time, and they've talked about no people dying. They don't say much about no people dying from COVID in Australia, but they say a lot about the advantages of having the injection, which I hear's got small amounts of what's in a lead pencil, which isn't really lead. I don't know if that's true. I was watching a thing on it last night, and that was a fella had researched it all. He wasn't biased either way, but he was from a technical side of it. He'd researched what was in the injections, and he didn't seem overly wrapped with what he was reading. And also, if we've had 0 people die this year from COVID, we've had 5 people die on Queensland roads this weekend. We had an 18-year-old or a 16-year-old and an 16-year-old or 18-year-old and a 20-year-old die down north of Brisbane. We've had a motorbike rider killed, and then we've had 2 people die up in North Queensland. So 5 as of this morning, die on Queensland roads. Well, that's over 5 times more than what's died of COVID this year. And it just seems to be accepted. But anyhow, I don't know. It's, like I said, it's a pretty emotive issue. You've got the anti-vaxxers, you've got the thing. All I want to do is just make sure that it's not going to worry me if I get it, and there's no long-term effects of it, because, like I said, there has been long-term effects of things before, And there's been that much misinformation with the AstraZeneca one. 1 minute it was you couldn't be 60 or above you could get it, then it went down to 50, then it went down to 40, and then the Chief Medical Officer, no, saying under 40, then the Chief Medical Officer in Queensland said, well, effectively, I looked at it and she said, well, she doesn't want a completely healthy 18 or 20-year-old getting it, and then all of a sudden adverse reactions to it. So when you've got the Chief Medical Officer saying that, to me that just puts a big question mark over things, and I think I think her and the government have got Queensland's best interests at heart, as I've got no doubt the other states have too, but like I said, to me it's just a little bit, well, I don't know. But look, I'm going to leave it at that. It's, like I said, it's a motive issue. I'm going to leave it, and Sveno Mick from Sveno Mick out.